I just spent $30,000 promoting my music with meta ads over the last 30 days. I did this to promote my album that I dropped, and in this video I'm going to give you a summary of everything that happened and the results that I got and kind of walk you through a little bit of what I did. This is actually the final video of my entire rollout, which I've posted in my private community. The link's in the description. In those videos I show everyone how I roll out the singles, how I built out the campaign, and how I developed the strategy, and also how I built out the campaign for the massive album push where I was promoting 10 songs at once and stuff like that. So if you're interested in knowing the entire strategy behind this, how I set up all of the campaigns, and how you can apply this strategy to your music as well, you can join there right now. But for you guys, I'm posting this video free so you can see exactly what happens when you do invest in yourselves. And with no further ado, I'm going to show you exactly what happened from $30,000 pushing my album. Enjoy the video. What's up guys? In this video, I'm going to give you the summary of the album rollout. This will be the final video, obviously, in this series. I'll kind of show you guys what happened with the streaming, give you some insight on how I made adjustments during the campaign and kind of how I ran everything, and also just other cool moments that happened during the campaign as well. So with that being said, you know, the majority of the budget went towards Became, as it was our best performer. I started running about $400 to $600 a day to it at a certain point. It did get quite challenging to operate at this scale, and I'll kind of touch base on that when we tuck into the ads. We also had the battle do very well, so I ran $100 to $200 a day to it, and I also kept small budgets running towards the other tracks for the majority of the campaign, except for Keep Your Head Up, which was just like by far the worst performer, and I just killed that off straight away. So a lot of the time we were running to about 8 of the songs, and then I would start to taper off the worst performers in the last week, and also taper off the ad spend, while making sure that like 50% of the budget was going towards Became, and maybe like 20% of the budget was going towards our second best performer. What happened? So listeners jumped to 240K, which is amazing. I almost doubled my monthly listeners throughout the whole rollout. Daily streams averaged out to around 35,000 to 40,000 a day, which is also almost double my daily streams. A record label reached out and they tried to sign Became, but it was a shit deal, so I said no. But that was a cool little bit of confirmation that I'm doing some cool stuff. We also had massive growth on other streaming services too. I think I over tripled my YouTube Music and my Apple Music engagement as well. I think I got about 250,000 streams on YouTube Music and around 100,000 on Apple Music, which is awesome. And I also unlocked monetization on my YouTube channel from this as well, which is again something I've been working towards for so long, so really happy with that. And on my Instagram, I gained around 3,000 new followers, so super happy with the results. I did want to hit 50K a day and hit 300,000 monthly listeners, but you know, it is how it is, and I'm happy with the results we got regardless. So inside of here, what happened? So there was a lot of times where I would have to maneuver small subtle things when certain ads would stop performing well, but the biggest thing was trying to get Became to maintain a good cost per result at a high ad spend, while all the other ones I was just running at like $30 to $50 a day. Became was running at like 500. And so one thing that I did during this campaign was I identified a really high performing ad, and if I can scroll down through all of these high performing ads, I'll find it for you. Yeah, so Song OG. This one here was an absolute banger, and it was our best performer for a little while. And so what I realized was that if I could go onto TikTok and find other viral compilations of people like grinding, that could work really well. And so I launched 10 new ads with that, and we found an ad that performed even better, which was this one, which is in the exact same vein as the last one I showed you, but this one just performed about 10 to 15% better. And when you're spending $500 a day, that's actually a big difference. And on top of that, this helped me to not fatigue the other ad too much, because if I'm running 500 to one ad, the cost per result is going to rise significantly. But if I run it to 2, then there's not the same ad being shown to so many people, so it can actually perform better at scale. So that was a big thing that I implemented. I did test a bunch of songs on a bunch of ads on other songs, and there's so much that's going on here. I tried doing tier 1 only ad sets for certain songs, and for the ones that only increased by like 20 to 25% in cost per result, I kept running for tier 1, and also for Became, because I noticed a lot of the engagement was going to Brazil. So I knew that if I had ran to tier 1, the Brazil audience would fatigue less than if I doubled it just to tier 1 and tier 2, because that way I'm splitting the locations and forcing the meta ads to send it to tier 1, and so therefore it would fatigue slower in that audience as well. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, you can DM me. But basically, because it wasn't all going to the tier 1 and tier 2 blend, and you know, some of it was just going to tier 1, it made sure that the tier 1 tier 2 blend performed better for longer as well, with the same train of thinking as sending 2 different ads out. Is hitting slightly different audiences, right? So it fatigues slower. Yeah, it was pretty difficult to get a 25 cents or lower cost per result when I was doing it at this scale. And so we did spend 29,400 at 26 cents, which I'm also can't complain about. And we got 114,000 new listeners to the music, which is phenomenal. Yeah, I could scroll through. We did 173 ad sets in general. I would, launch new ads all the time. If I found a template that was working for one song, I'd try it on another, and just constantly be moving around budget to different songs that were performing well, getting good saves in the back end, looking at how many saves it got, playlist ads it got, and if something started to fatigue, I'd try and launch new ads, or if something performed really well with a certain visual, I'd try it on other songs as well. That's pretty much everything. The previous video will give you a better breakdown of how I kind of set everything up, and yeah, just killed off all the bad performers, did the usual business there. So let's tuck into Spotify for Artists. I don't want to make this video too long, but you guys can see. So here's kind of, the month before we were getting good engagement. I was still actively promoting up until around March here, and then I think the 23rd we dropped the first song, if I'm correct. So first single dropped, and that first month was just like dropping singles and building momentum. And so we were getting around, 20,000, 22,000 streams a day, probably averaging about 20K. And then that's when the album dropped on the 30th. And obviously we ramped up really significantly. And the algorithm actually didn't really kick in that much until this third week here. And still we only got like a couple days of like real good algorithmic support, which was unfortunate. I would have liked more algorithmic support, just to have that more explosive growth, but it is what it is. And then here we started to scale down significantly. I dropped a new song to build on the momentum of the previous song and started pushing ad spend away from the album and into the new song. And now we're not spending nearly as much as we were on the album. I think I'm spending a couple hundred a day on the single and nothing on the album, but we're still getting 40,000 streams a day. So the momentum is carrying over, which is really, really good. I'm averaging like 30, probably 40,000 streams a day if we keep this momentum building, and only spending like a fifth of what we were spending at the peak on the rollout here. So with 40,000 streams a day as well, like I'm probably generating more in royalties than I'm spending each day, which is crazy that we can continue to grow while still recouping our investment from the month before. I imagine if I completely stopped spending, it would deteriorate significantly, and I could still recoup in 6 months if I don't spend or if I do spend. So I really think just keeping reinvesting and recouping a little slower is kind of my play here. And if I get 10 million streams in the year and we're already like, I don't know, 4 million down and getting 40,000 a day, I'll be able to make some profit off of the year while also generating 10 million streams, building a lot of listeners and building my brand. So I'm not trying to cash in just yet. I'm trying to keep building. So that's why I'm reinvesting. And yeah, so far getting about 40.6K streams as of yesterday, and I'm noticing a lot of momentum being built. So yeah, we got about 1 million streams on the month itself. If we go in to, let's say, what was it, May 30th the album dropped into, no, it was April 30th, sorry, into May 30th there. We got 1 million streams, and like I said, about 200, because it's on a 28-day window, not a 30-day window. We got 240K monthly listeners, whole bunch of saves, whole bunch of playlist ads, really great growth and engagement, and I'm confident I'll be able to recoup and get a lot of long-term listeners to my music as well. So the momentum's crazy right now. I'm very happy with that as a result. If we go into the album itself, The total streams is over 1 million, which is sick. And as you can see, we're still getting 20,000 streams per day on the album, and I'm not spending any money on it, right? So that's really, really cool to see that it hasn't really dropped off that much. Even though we haven't spent anything this week, we're still getting 20,000 streams a day. And that's from all of the active listeners, the songs in the algorithm, and then opting them into discovery mode as well. So amazing stream per listener ratio, a lot of saves, playlist ads. So super, super happy with that result. Now, one thing I will say about all of this is that a big takeaway that I got is that albums are just really hard to promote. So a lot of the singles on the album, if we go here, like they're our best performers. You know what I mean? Like Double It, if we go, let's go all time. You know, single. Like every single song that is doing the best right now was dropped as a single. And I kind of knew this going into it, but I was like, hey, let's just see what happens. And you know, the Battle is the only one that's really Angel's Advice. You know, a couple of these I didn't put much ad spend into, but what I'm trying to say is that singles clearly are the way to go. All of these songs, except for Angel's Advice, didn't end up getting a release radar push, which means that they missed out free algorithmic engagement, which would have risen their streaming floor much easier and quicker, and probably would have got even more algorithmic engagement because of that momentum and the popularity score growing quicker as well. So overall, what I would say is, like, realistically, guys, like dropping an album is not it, especially if you've got a big budget and you want to do a big push. Just drop them as singles and build off the momentum and make sure that you're getting into release radar frequently. A lot of cool moments happened. I'm not disappointed by any means. I'm happy. If we had got less than 200,000 listeners and less than 1 million streams, I probably would have been a bit disappointed, but I feel very confident that I'll be able to recoup long term. I know for sure I would have been infinitely more profitable if I dropped it as singles, which is a great lesson for when I do it the next time. And I really think that, you know, this has been a great learning experience for me too, because one thing too much, right, was cut off the album. I dropped it as a single after the fact, and it's getting a better cost per result than anything on the album. So another thing that makes me feel very confident that I should just be dropping singles is the fact that, like, I would have not been so heavily invested in having to push the album. I would have dropped too much and would have been able to put more budget towards that, identifying it as a really high performing track. So when you drop singles and you've got a bit more of a long-term game plan rather than you just got to push it all in this 1 month on all these songs, you're kind of putting yourself in a box, removing the algorithmic potential that you can get, and then what you do instead, if you drop them as singles, once you have a really banging song, that's when you pump, and then you continue dropping a bunch of singles, continue dropping a bunch of singles. All of these songs get great engagement, great algorithmic support, and then when you find a banger, that's when you pump. So that's how I'm going to pivot my strategy moving forward. Drop singles and then, like, you know, maybe put a couple thousand into each single, and if it really cranks, then put 5 to 10k, and then that would be my massive growth and scaling phase. And so my plan is to maybe do like a 2-month, maybe even 3-month rollout where I drop, like, I don't know, 20 songs, and then repeat this whole entire process with, you know, $100,000, and really scale to probably 500,000 to 1 million monthly listeners off of this, and do it in a way where all of the songs are getting a release radar, and I'm not emotionally attached to having to make it work within the month. So yeah, overall, I think it was a great learning experience. It was cool to see everyone following the journey when I was posting on my social media, and I mean, the results speak for themselves. It's very rare where you can find anything that's provably scalable to 250,000 monthly listeners, and you can also do it in a way that you get your money back. So if I just continue dropping music, I'm going to reap the benefits even more of all of the efforts in the past month, as Too Much is clearly showing us right now with how many streams it's getting a day right now, like 7,000, you know what I mean? And so it's costing half the amount to get this song to perform as well as Became, because of all the momentum and also the algorithmic support that we're getting. So hopefully you got some value out of this video. Hopefully you learned some cool stuff, and moving forward, this just reiterates the strategies that we teach here, where it's just drop singles, consistently invest, and then double down on the ones that are high performers. So again, hopefully you got some great value. If you have any questions about anything I've laid out here, let me know, and I'm gonna get some money in the bank, get some music in the bank, and then do this all again with 100 bands. So stay tuned for that one.